a meaningful episode here on Good Morning Wilmington, one that addresses an issue touching countless lives. Mental health is here, and it doesn't discriminate. And today, we're shining a little light on a remarkable initiative right here in our community, soon to be housed within the Teen Warehouse. Today, we come together to celebrate the legacy of Sean Locke. His boundless kindness and love have ignited a spark leading to the creation of SL24, Unlock the Light Foundation. The Unlock the Light movement champions 3 impact goals are to educate high school students and college students, recognize the signs of depression. Second, to obliterate, that's right, the stigma surrounding depression. And finally, to ensure essential resources to being ready to those that need them. And today we're joined by 3 capeless superheroes, Logan Herring, Chris Locke, and Dave Sysko. Gentlemen, how are you doing? Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Some great things you guys are doing in the community.
Thank you.
All right, so we got the beginning of the Mac Gym at the warehouse and Sean's room. Right. All right, let's start with Mac Gym. What's going on, Logan, there?
Yeah, so I'm a pass the ball.
Okay.
Fitting, right? I'm gonna pass the ball to Dave Sysko, who I think was really the brainchild behind this. When we opened the warehouse a couple of years ago, it wasn't complete. We wanted to get the teens in there, build some momentum, but we knew there were some areas that we wanted to continue to develop, and the gymnasium was one of them. The gym, when we moved in, it had VCT tile, and if you don't know what VCT tile is, it's like a tile in a classroom.
The church tile.
The church tile,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so that's not fitting for kids to be playing,
right.
Activities, sports, and things like that in the gym. So we just wanted to update that when we saw the opportunity present itself.
Okay.
And we were talking to Dave, who's been one of our biggest supporters. He's been my biggest supporter. He's a big reason why I am where I am today, and that's a longer story for another day, perhaps. But we put our heads together, and we were able to tap into a fund to put the money behind the resources necessary to update the gym, and it's beautiful, and we're excited to cut the ribbon on it on December 6th.
Oh my gosh, right around the corner. That's right around. And before we go to Dave real quick, I want to touch on the Teen Warehouse for those that are viewing that don't know what the Teen Warehouse, what its superpowers are. Do you mind telling everyone about that?
Well, the superpower of the warehouse is for teens by teens. It was created by teens, for teens. And so artistically, the architecture was done by teens. The interior design, the programmatic design, everything was really cultivated by teens. And we employ over 200 teens per year. Right. And we have an executive committee that's about 8 teens that pretty much run the warehouse. All year round. We pay them 15 hours a week to run the warehouse. We like to say it's teen-led, adult-guided, so we do have some adult supervision in the house. Right. But at the end of the day, it's all about cultivating teens. And so we have 5 pillar areas: recreation, education, arts, career, and health. And after school,
it's an ecosystem.
It's a big deal. And when you empower the people that are being impacted by the work to actually lead the work, you'll see the changes that are needed.
All right. So, Dave, tell me, what was the thing that first of all, people don't know Dave. They living in a rock, right? Yeah. Okay, let's say that. Mr. University of Delaware, he holds a record there. Tell the people the record that you hold there, Dave.
45 points in a game. And then a single season average of 23.4, but who's counting?
I know that's right. So why did you team up with the Teen Warehouse with this?
Well, I go way back to Logan. First of all, I've always told politicians never follow Chris Coons. Now I know you never follow Logan Herring.
Now why is that?
Because he's so good. That's why. I go way back with Logan and the things we did with the Boys and Girls Club, that he did with the Boys and Girls Club. And we pretty much followed him to the Reach Riverside project, which is a much bigger project. Logan might talk about that later. But one of the early focuses was the Teen Warehouse. It was a thing that was going to tell the community, this time it's for real.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For decades, decade after decade, you're going to have this kind of housing, this kind of community. Well, now, 60 years later, it's probably the biggest innovative project in a generation in the city of Wilmington, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So it started with the Teen Warehouse. And we saw that with a basketball background. Logan's got a basketball background. the gym had to be fixed up.
Right.
And fortunately, the McLaughlin Foundation, which was set up many decades ago, 30 years ago, for Bill McLaughlin, the mayor, two-term mayor. And he had a passion for helping young kids. And so he set up a foundation, raised $1 million, supported programs at the Boys and Girls Club, but then when the Reach Riverside project became a reality and the Teen Warehouse became a reality, we decided to shift our focus to that.
Right.
And Bill McLaughlin was the coach at Concord High many years ago, loves basketball, and took a look at the gym and said, hey, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
So the McLaughlin Foundation dedicated about 25% of its resources to fix it up, and it's a beautiful facility.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, being around, as my grandma would say, being long in the tooth, right? And seeing
Me?
and seeing like the promises and the ideas of something like the Teen Warehouse many years ago, and now that it's here, what are your thoughts about that? What do you say about that?
Well, you know, there's probably only a handful of facilities like it in the country. I mean, you're talking about something that is incredible. Logan, how many kids belong?
So we have more than a third of the teen population of the city of Wilmington registered
A
at the
third?
A third.
A third.
A
And
third.
now, how many?
In 2 years.
Now, what's the total population?
So in the city of Wilmington, it's about 70,000. We calculate that it's about 8,000, maybe a little less, of teens in the city of Wilmington. And we've registered over a third of the teen population.
That is huge.
Yeah, and the thing is, you need to go there to see the impact.
Right.
The technology
Right.
in each of the rooms, the curriculum that the kids can participate in, and they dictate a lot of this, you know, what they want, what they need.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible situation.
Now, with all the programs that's going on at the Teen Warehouse, there's another program that's initiative that's about to happen, and that's Sean's Room.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
for
having
being
me.
here. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank
Another capeless superhero. Now, how did that come about? That relationship. There's a lot of relationships that making this warehouse work, and I love it.
Well, very organically, and then I'll
Yeah.
pass it to Chris.
There's a lot of basketball metaphors here, right?
So,
Exactly right. Well,
so the genesis of the warehouse really started in 2017, and Dave was right there at the table with me and a couple other people. And it started at Kingswood and said, we're not providing our teens in the city of Wilmington with the resources that they need, space, facilities, whatever the case may be. And so we started to talk about, well, what could we do? And down the street was this big warehouse, and that's where the name comes from. It's it's like over 100,000 square foot warehouse, and we were going to renovate some space in that building, about 10,000 square feet. We began to socialize the idea. I pitched it at Reinventing Delaware. It won in 2017, and we started to build momentum. The summer of 2018 was pivotal. We reached out to all of our partners, the Boys and Girls Club, the West End Neighborhood Houses, the community centers, Hilltop. Give us your teens for the summer. We're going to pay 25 teens to help us come up with this idea.
Wow.
And in 2018, we said, what are the things you want? And immediately, the top 2 priorities were mental health and reproductive health.
Wow.
And so when we talk about mental health, when we talk about what Sean's house has done, it was like, it just made sense. And so Chris and I got together. We did a survey at the warehouse prior to reaching out. And we had, I want to say, we did a survey of about 15 teens, and more than 50% had suicidal ideation and thoughts. And we knew we had to do something about it. And since we had toured Sean's house, they had come and toured the warehouse, we reached out. And I'll leave the rest up to him to tell the story.
yeah, well, it's kind of funny, as we're all connected here through basketball at some point.
Yeah.
And that's how Logan and I met. Logan was a assistant coach over at Sanford. Sanford was playing on the SL24 basketball tournament that we hold every year at the 76ers Fieldhouse. And we just started chatting. I had spoke to his team, and he started telling me what he was doing. I had the opportunity to see what he was doing at Teens Warehouse and the Riverside Project as well, and I was just awed by his energy and his leadership. And, you know, leadership comes in all forms. And Logan is a transformational leader. What he's doing for the city of Wilmington is just awe-inspiring, and we wanted to be part of that. And dealing with some of the kids in the neighborhood that he helps, really got us thinking, what can we do? I've been blessed beyond what I deserve.
Yeah.
And, Sean was this, as you said, kind-hearted, caring person. And I did feel like he was saying to me, hey, we got to do something at Teens Warehouse. So we had done our first Sean's room at his alma mater at St. Mark's, and our second choice, without a doubt, was going to always be Teens Warehouse. So we're honored to be part of this tremendous project that Logan has started with Dave, and we just look forward to hopefully be able to make an impact on the community.
Well, thank you for that. I think it is amazing because, that neighborhood over there for years has been forgotten about. And now when you look at the entire ecosystem from, the Teen Warehouse to East Side Charter and the programs that's within inside that are helping these kids. Can you explain some of the advantages that the kids in the neighborhood will have with Sean's room at the warehouse? Because, again, we've been overlooked, right? And now it's something that it can really help.
And can you talk about what Sean's house has done? Because I think that would give a glimpse into what Sean's room is probably capable of, and then maybe what Sean's room has done in St. Mark's as well.
So Sean's house, we created it 3 years ago, and really it is a place for young people to come and have a conversation. For a lot of them, maybe that first conversation dealing with some sort of mental health issue. And what we try to do is create a place where anybody can come in at any time of the day and have that conversation. Sean never had that conversation. As an athlete, they're taught to suck it up, be strong. We put him on a pedestal. So it was very hard for him to be able to have the conversation of his battle with depression and anxiety. And he never spoke to me about it at all. So what we want to do is transform that so that people could come in and have that conversation, but make it non-clinical. Right. Make it feel like you're going to grandma's house. When we all were growing up, we had a problem. Who do we go to? We went to our grandmother.
Right.
And we wanted to make it feel like grandma's house. Sean's house was actually his house when he attended the University of Delaware. And since opening, we've had over 20,000 people use the resources. We have a peer program called Peer 24 where we train young people who have real lived experiences. They deal with some sort of aspect, eating disorder, depression, anxiety, whatever the case, and they volunteer their time to help their fellow peers to get through it. But it's not enough just to have the conversation. You then have to have resources. So we've created a network of mental health professionals here in Delaware. So instead of waiting 8 weeks, 10 weeks for an appointment, we can get you in usually within 24 hours, 48 hours. And we've had 4,500 people.
That's phenomenal.
Here. We just saved our 104th person from suicide. Wow. So this is someone who comes in and says, I want to end my life, or I'm thinking about ending my life. And then we get them immediate resources. Everything there is free. The house is open 24/7 because we understand that mental health issues may not happen from 9 to 3. It may happen at 8 o'clock at night or 2 a.m. in the morning, whatever the case may be. So we have people constantly there. So Sean's room is kind of a microcosm of Sean's house.
Right.
So it's a smaller scale, but it's the same purpose.
Right.
Keep that front door open. Have somebody be able to come in and have that first conversation. And, in the Riverside community, it's a desert for mental health services. I mean, other than the Teen Warehouse, there's really nothing there for these kids to be able to deal with whatever they're dealing with. So the idea is we're going to have Sean's room there. We'll have a scholarship program. One of the programs we have is a scholarship program. So if a kid can't afford to see a mental health professional, we'll pay for it. No questions asked for as long as it takes. And we have about 22 young people that are taking advantage of that scholarship program right now. And we think that can be a great resource at the Teen Warehouse as well. And we'll facilitate getting them the resources they need.
Right. Yeah. Now you see, Logan, you see the teens over there all the time, right? And you know the trauma that they're bringing with them.
Right.
How do you think this is going to help them?
I mean, I think Chris said it all. To save 104 people from suicide, to know that we have teens that deal with the pressure of social media, the pressure of just being in school, peer pressure, the pressures of life, the pressure that unstable communities, unstable households might bring, the pressure of just life in general. Sometimes it gets to us, and we need to have resources. Yeah. And so having Sean's room at the warehouse will mean everything to us, because if you're not right mentally, emotionally, you can't accomplish anything in this world meaningfully. And we believe that we have the leaders of the next generation coming through our doors every day, and we want them to be able to maximize that potential that they have within them, and we don't want anything to hold them back. like a closed door when they need that support. And so having the resource within the doors of the warehouse, which is a safe place for them, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, every way possible, we think that is going to have a huge impact.
Yeah, when you hear Teen Warehouse, you know, like you said, safe place. When you hear Sean's house, it's safe haven. So it's a perfect combination for these teens that come in, along with the gym where they could go in there and drop 50 on them.
And the gym is more than that. So, I saw Joe here earlier. And I was going to offer to him if he has any of the professional athletes that want to come through at some point, because we're very purposeful in the way we design the gym.
Okay.
The MAC, let's call it the MAC. And so at the MAC, we have high school three-point line, we have college three-point line, an NBA three-point line, and we even got a little funky with it. We got 3 4-point logos, work group logos.
Okay.
We also have 2 large television screens up on the wall, so if you want to have some type of event to be held there, we can do that. And then we have this massive scoreboard in the shape of the warehouse logo, and on top of that, we also have shot clocks. So again, just making sure we cover all our bases for whatever use we need it for in the future. But it's not just about sports, right? It's a gathering space that's so much more, and that's what the warehouse is all about. So yes, we're addressing mental health, physical health, with the MAC, and so much more.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Is that a lot? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you know, physical health, mental health, they're connected.
Right.
So you cannot perform physically if you're suffering mentally, and vice versa. And you know, we're honored that we're going to be there to do the ribbon cutting for not only the MAC but Sean's room, because I really do see the two spaces being really interrelated, connected to really what we're trying to do, which is make that young person feel healthy physically and mentally.
And it's so true, because you were talking about like how we're raised, right? We're raised to be like young men are raised to like suck it up, don't cry, don't show emotion.
Absolutely.
Get back out there and go get them again. And suddenly, you know, we're as adults, and you know, it grows still in us. So I think that is I believe that is, you know, Sean's room at the warehouse is it will be a tremendous success for our community, because I think stats say 1 out of 3 teens are suffering with some type of depression.
Without a doubt.
And growing every day.
It is, and we've seen it over the last 4 years with COVID, you know, the mental health aspect, and Logan mentioned social media. I mean, that is truly having an effect on our young people. You know, Dave and I are a little bit older than Logan, by a little bit. I mean, when we did something wrong, 5-10 people found out about it. When a kid does something wrong today, it replays over and over again. 400 people know about it instantly. That is a tremendous amount of pressure. And now if you're dealing with depression, anxiety, that's going to make it even worse. Or if you don't have it, it could cause it. So, so the way the kids are growing up today is a lot different. Now you add in other stresses, you know, trauma of whatever's going on in their lives. That's a lot to ask for a 14, 16-year-old kid to handle. So hopefully we'll be able to put a small dent and try and help some of the issues that are going on.
So if there's a teen watching right now, or even an adult, or someone, right, but we're focused on a teen. If there's a teen watching right now, what would you tell them, like the signs of depression that, you know, you would say, hey, come knock on the door right now. We're there for you. What would you tell them the signs of depression are?
So I always say I'm not a mental health professional, so I speak as a dad. So I think some of the signs you want to look at is it's not a feeling. It is really an underlying, I can't feel joy. And some of the signs you'll see is if they stop doing the things they like doing, if they seem to, their temperament has changed. They seem to be getting more angry, or things are bothering them more. There's little breadcrumbs that you can see. You know, for Sean, there was little things that I was just ignorant to, because I didn't know anything about the disease. I thought it was a moral failing. I thought it was a character flaw. It's not. It's a disease. And just as your blood cells attack you when you have cancer, your brain is attacking you when you have depression, anxiety. So as a parent, I would say, if you see your kid not being quite their normal self, sit down and ask them what's going on, and address it as if you thought your kid had cancer. Don't brush it under the rug. Don't tell them, suck it up, look at all the blessings. These are the things I would have done if Sean had come to me. I would have said, Sean, you're Sean Locke. You have everything anybody could ever hope for, but it's not about that. And you opened the segment perfectly. It's an indiscriminate disease. It doesn't care if you're black, white, rich, poor. It doesn't care. It's indiscriminate, just like any other disease. And that's what we have to get to as a society. No, this is a disease. No one did anything to
Right.
get depression, anxiety, or mental health issues.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking when you're saying it's a disease, right? Like we were growing up and we didn't have all this intake of information. Social media just wasn't there like that, right? And now you can think about all the everything that these kids are being, sex, music, grades, being popular. It does something to your brain with that. Wow.
Dave, what were you? I think you were going to say something earlier.
Well, I want to make sure when you think about the the MAC at the warehouse, it's much more than a basketball court.
Right.
They have community gatherings. They talk about violence, how to help the teens. Those large TVs, if they have slides and things like that, they can see them. So it's much more than that. And the other thing I wanted to say is, it's amazing to me, really, that the McLaughlin Foundation, it's headed by the mayor's son, Bill McLaughlin, and the other lead director is Joe Kane. The commitment they've made, I mean, basically they've committed the entire fund over the life to the warehouse.
Wow.
I mean, that's a biggie.
That is huge.
Yeah, it really is. And Bill McLaughlin Jr. and Joe Kane deserve the bulk of the credit.
All right, other cable superheroes, and that's what legacy is, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a show of legacy right here. You have people that are not with us anymore, but we're honoring them, we're celebrating them, and we're just keeping things moving to better, the world. And it was crazy because when I first started DETV as a nonprofit, the word I kept hearing was impact. And that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing, and that's what you're doing. And I want to be not the first, but one in the many to say thank you. The world appreciates it because it is about making the world a better place, and especially as a dad and losing your son and then taking that fuel to make sure someone else doesn't, it's a lot. So but celebrate it. So thank you for what you're doing with that. I really, really appreciate that. And you, come on, dropping 45 on them.
This arm is bigger than this arm.
So that's what, 60 years now?
60 years.
60 years.
People talk about, you don't understand the power of sports.
Right.
Like, we're all connected through basketball. We all have it in common. I mean, we met at a basketball game, me and Chris, and Dave supported, my first nonprofit that I ran with Eugene Young, who's running for Congress, and my brother, Shannon Watson, and it was a mentoring program for student athletes, but basketball was the carrot that we used to attract the teens. And now when you talk about what we're doing here, the MAC and Sean's room, it's basketball. So I know you're going to the Sixers-Lakers game tonight, and so
Thank you so much for inviting me to come.
I got you. Don't worry about it. I got you. I got you on a couple other games. Can't get you on this one.
So my wife bought me tickets last year for LeBron's performance on his 38th birthday.
Oh wow!
And he dropped
in
40.
Vegas?
No, it was in Atlanta.
Okay,
close to Vegas.
Yeah,
Black Vegas.
Black.
and he dropped 47 points. So I hope you get to witness something like that because it is special what he's doing.
Yeah.
If I can just jump on what Logan said about sports, I mean, it really is a critical aspect of our culture and our life, and sports does unite us all. And I think that's the great thing about what's going on with the MAC. And Trevor Cooney was one of Sean's friends. It was his idea to start this basketball tournament, and he said, and it was such a poignant moment. He said, if we can use basketball to talk about mental health, we'll impact more people that way than if you just spoke about mental health. And
without a doubt.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
And we have 7,000 people show up for this tournament now, and they get that message. And I can't tell you how many fathers come up to me, regardless of their socioeconomic background, and thank us for doing this basketball tournament because it's one of the first times they've ever had a conversation about mental health.
Yeah.
And that's the impact. And, Logan was a great athlete. Dave was a great athlete. I was a moderate athlete. But it really is. Sports can change everything if we use it for good.
There you go.
If your heart doesn't open up when they turn the lights out at the Chase Field House and ask everybody to hold up their cell phone with their flashlight, and you just see a sea of lights, it's one of the most impactful moments you can have.
Wow. And then when is that?
It's always the first weekend in February.
First weekend in February.
Our sixth annual tournament will be the first weekend in February at the 76ers Field House.
Wow.
So,
How many? Now let me circle back. How many kids you said you helped again?
We've had 20,000 come to Sean's house, and 4,500 have used the pier, and like I said, we saved 104 from suicide.
And I think you're selling yourself short at Sean's house to say you saved 104, because what you're doing with the 20,000 is you're preventing them to getting to that 105th and 106th.
Yeah.
And so I would say you've saved thousands and thousands
Thank
of
you,
lives.
Logan.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank
That
you.
work is meaningful, and that's why we had to have it at the warehouse.
I love it. I love every minute. Okay, the doors are open. December 6th, the ribbon cutting, Mac Gym, and
3:30?
3:30 p.m.
I tell you what, that's your camera right there. Boom. All right, get Logan's camera, and then go ahead.
So December 6th, 3:30 p.m. at the warehouse, 1121 Thatcher Street. We are doing the ribbon cutting for Sean's room and the Mac. Feel free to show up, but more importantly, Warehouse Wednesdays. Bring your teens, get them signed up. If you know a teen, if it's not your own teen, if you know any teen, introduce them to the warehouse, bring them by. Even if it's not a Warehouse Wednesday, we'll find a way to make sure that they're connected. And most importantly, well, not most importantly, but the thing that is the biggest care for us is we hire teens. We hire 200 teens throughout the year. We pay them $12 an hour, 15 hours a week for 12 weeks straight to get them prepared for the workforce. 8 weeks of soft skills, 4 weeks of hard skills, and they are ready to enter this world, this adulting, as we call it these days. And I think that that's a huge thing that people don't know about the warehouse, is that we actually raise over $1.5 million a year just to pay teens to experience what it's like to be an employee, to be an entrepreneur. And we see it making a difference on the impact of these future leaders. And they got to be healthy, mentally and physically, to do that in the future. And that's why this partnership is such a big thing for us.
I love it. I love it. All right, Chris, right there, that's your camera. Go ahead and tell them about Sean's room, Sean's house.
Yep. So if you have a young person in your life, a son, a daughter, grandson, granddaughter, niece, nephew, and you think they're having issues, if you think they need to speak to someone, you can either go to Sean's house in West Main Street in Newark, or next week, starting December 6th, come to Sean's room at the Teens Warehouse. We're here to help you, find you the resources so that you can live a beautiful life. And we're honored to be part of this.
All right, you're up, Dave.
I can just say, as Logan mentioned, he has these tours on Wednesdays, and it's more than just the warehouse. It shows how many houses have been built.
We've built 141 homes, and out of the 141, because we're always questioning, are you gentrifying? Gentrification, we have weaponized that word. There's nothing wrong with gentrification, except for when you displace people through gentrification. Gentrification is about moving a low-income neighborhood to a higher-income neighborhood, and we're doing that in Riverside. So out of the 141 homes we've built, 125 are occupied by people that literally moved across the street. So through this work, we're not displacing anyone, but we will be building over 700 units of housing. So Dave's talking about the tours we do every other Wednesday, and you can sign up for those at reachriverside.org, workgroup.org, WRK. And the tours are typically from 10 to 11:30 a.m. on Wednesdays. And I think coming up in 2024, we're going to be doing 2 tours a day because the demand is so high. We have people flying all across the country to attend those.
Maybe you can just talk about the pillars for that community. It's not just about housing.
Yeah, so REACH is an acronym. Like most things in the work group, we create acronyms. I'm called an acronymologist. But
And he is.
REACH is redevelopment, education, and community health. And so not just building homes, we are also starting construction on the new Kingswood Community Center next year. Second quarter probably of 2024 is going to be a $50 million facility, 80,000 plus square feet. Actually, our project engineer is a young man, 23 years old, from Riverside, Deontay Martin, who's also managing the Eastside Charter project as well. Yeah, so we're looking at economic development up along Northeast Boulevard. We got the warehouse, we got Eastside Charter, we got Kingswood, we have the new housing, and so much more in store for the neighborhood. But everything we do, we empower the community to be a part of it and to really lead these efforts, and the warehouse is just an example of that.
What about education and healthcare?
Yeah, so education is a cradle to career pipeline. So we start with early learning at Kingswood, where the last 2 years our kids are 100% kindergarten readiness, which doesn't happen anywhere. We have the highest paid early learning staff in the state.
And most successful.
Most successful, and Dave's my number one cheerleader.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Besides my
Dave.
mom, let me not give him that credit.
Yeah.
And my wife now. Look, I'm getting myself all types of trouble.
Yeah, you're in trouble now.
But then we have Eastside Charter for kindergarten to 8th grade, and we have the Warehouse for our teens and young adults. So every facet of a life we are attempting to touch, and it's mostly through partnerships. And partnerships like the one we're talking about today.
Let me ask you this, man. Okay, we're going to keep this thing going. Why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why is it Warehouse doing what it's doing?
For me, it's very personal. I've had access to a lot of resources, a lot of people like Dave. Dave, if it weren't for Dave, I would not be here. And I mean that wholeheartedly. And so it has really allowed me to tap into my potential. And too often we have barriers that are put in place for people, particularly that look like myself, that look like you, Ivan. And what we say, we're removing those barriers.
Right.
The mission of Reach Riverside is to eliminate the barriers of structural racism. We understand that housing segregation, we understand all the types of discriminatory practices and policies over time that have kept us back from hitting this potential that you and I are now actually seeing to fruition. So there's more Logans, there's more Ivans, there's more Eugenes, there's more Aaron Basses, and the list goes on. And we believe that they're coming in the warehouse every single day.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't we invest? That's a good investment to me.
Yeah.
So,
And that would-
let's not forget healthcare, because isn't
Yeah.
that the basis
Yeah.
of how
Absolutely.
people succeed or don't?
Absolutely.
And
Well,
who the major partner is?
yeah, so Christiana Care has been there every step of the way. They gave us a $1 million gift back in 2018, I believe. They were really one of the early adopters. The people that buy the iPhone that line up as soon as it comes out, but then you
Yeah.
have people that buy it later. They were front of the line, like, we want to be
Waiting.
a part. Yeah, we
Yeah.
want to be a part of this. And they understand that the majority of your health needs, 80%, at least 80%, take place outside of the doctor's office.
Right.
Right? So that's housing, that's education. It's all the things we're talking about, right, that happen outside. And so they said, we want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And so, like we said, redevelopment, education, and community health. And you can't have a comprehensive revitalization without having all the needs that are met. And we believe we're meeting all those needs.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say,
Please.
Logan,
Dave's become your co-host.
I love it.
Logan talks about, you asked why does he do what he does? And I think for all of us here, whether it's being friends with former Mayor McLaughlin or my son Sean or Logan, it's personal. It is truly personal. There's a reason why we do this, because Mayor McLaughlin was a great man. I had a chance to meet him as a young attorney here in town, and he was a phenomenal leader.
Yeah.
And Logan has that personal connection to the community that he wants to make sure that the opportunities you have been given can be given to others. And same thing with my son Sean. I mean, I don't want any dads or mom to deal with what I've dealt with the last 5 years since losing Sean. It's devastating. And I know Sean would want us to do this work. And I think that's why these two gentlemen are here too. They have it inside them.
Right.
They are as a person
Yeah.
that they know this has to be done.
Yeah.
Because we need more Logans in the world. And we can have a kid who's not getting the right education or not getting the right health care or not getting the opportunities to be able to succeed. We need to help them to succeed because they all want to succeed.
Right.
My daughter's a teacher in the city of Baltimore. And I've learned so much watching her career the last 11 years being a public school teacher down there. Every family wants their kid to do better than themselves. And it doesn't matter whether you're a family in Hocassin or family in New York or family in Riverside. You want your kid to do better than you did. So we have to give them the opportunity to do better.
Yeah.
And for some, that means we really have to step up to the plate and help those who need help.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what it is. Together,
Right.
we go fast together.
without a doubt.
So,
Without a doubt.
Logan, one last point.
Sure.
Talk about what happened in Eastlake to show what can happen
Yeah.
in Reach Riverside.
Yeah, so most people are familiar with the East Lake here in Wilmington. The bucket 2-6.
Bucket 2-6, right. That's what I know it as.
There's another East Lake. There's an East Lake right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, in Decatur.
Okay.
And that's where we've basically took our model. It's the purpose-built communities model. There are 25 purpose-built communities around the country, but it started in East Lake, Atlanta, Georgia, next to the East Lake Golf Course, and there was a housing project that they took this model of redevelopment, high quality mixed income housing, cradle to career pipeline, community health and wellness, economic vitality, and they poured into that community. And 25 years later, it is the example that the other 24 network members around the country are following. And so Reach Riverside is a part of that network, and we're following that model.
Right.
And sometimes you have to see something and say, wow, they had success doing it. It's possible we can do the same thing.
What were some of the measures?
Yeah, and so they've taken a neighborhood that was one of the most violent neighborhoods, $35 million in drug trade, one of the worst performing schools to the best performing school in Atlanta, Georgia.
Did they?
Yeah. You talk about, workforce development. They only had a handful, a small percentage of people working. Now it's 100% people working. They've improved the housing stock from the houses were worth like $30,000, now they're like $400,000 in that neighborhood. And the entire ecosystem that you talk about is benefiting from it. And then, Drew Charter School is one of the most phenomenal schools you'll ever see. And so we believe Eastside Charter is going to be that, that Drew Charter. We believe that the housing is going to be the housing that's in Eastlake. We believe Kingswood is going to set the market, and the warehouse is basically just the catalyst to fuel it all.
All right, so in 20 years, where do you see that this whole program process in 20
Well,
years?
in 20 years, I'm going to be out at Riverside because Riverside no longer needs us.
Right.
I don't believe a nonprofit exists to be a permanent crutch forever. And that's why we call ourselves tax-exempt businesses. We're operating a business to have an impact and return on the investment.
Right.
And so when you invest in a program like Empower, which is our economic mobility program, every dollar invested in Empower yields, I think it's over $8 return. Investments in Rise is a $10 return. Investments in the Early Learning Academy is a $6.80 return. So, you're a businessman. Those are major
that's major
returns.
numbers.
Yep. And so as we keep returning that investment back to the community, Reach Riverside will no longer be needed. Maybe we move on to another neighborhood or other neighborhoods around the country and help them, the city, the county. But right now, we want to make sure that Riverside gets done the way it needs to be done.
Right.
And listening to the community allows us to do that. And I believe that in 20 years, you won't be hearing about Reach Riverside.
How many
anymore.
families is it being impacted now?
Yeah, so right now I would say we're at about 5,000 families per year that we impact, and that's a modest estimate.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not all the families in the housing,
Yeah.
but as you know, coming in and out of these doors, every time you touch a life, that's a life that's being changed. You may never know the impact you had on those lives.
Right.
People that poured in my life would never know that I'd be here sitting at this table talking to Big Ive, who just did a turkey drive.
Yeah. Right.
But, Logan, when we have a board meeting, this is what I say is, success for our nonprofit is in 20 years, there's no need to have a Sean's house. There's no need to have a Sean's house. That we deal with mental health issues just like we deal with physical health issues. And I think a lot of nonprofits lose sight of that.
Yeah.
You are successful when you achieve your goal of eradicating the problem that you're trying to eradicate.
Yeah.
And Logan and I have had conversations about nonprofits, and you have to run it like a business. And you have to have goals, and you have to achieve those goals, and then say, okay, what are we going to do next year? What is the plan?
Yeah.
But that's how I see success. I mean, it's been 5 years since we started the foundation, 3 years since we opened up Sean's House. But success will be in 20 years. Hopefully, there's no need.
There's no
for
need.
it.
And then we'll come back and you'll be syndicated all across the country.
Yes.
This is what we achieved in Delaware. Now, where else do we need to come?
Where else do we
All
need
your markets that you're.
There we go.
There
I
it
love
is.
the 20-year plan. All right.
And Delaware gives us Delaware is unique because we are so small.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of things, whether it's DETV or
Yeah.
Sean's house,
Yeah.
or it's what you're doing. I mean, Teens Warehouse. I mean, we can do that because that's the great thing about Delaware is I know somebody who you knew somebody 20 years ago, and boom, let's get it done.
We're all connected.
We're all connected. It's a great blessing.
What Brian Shoup say and McBride, state of neighbors.
State of neighbors.
State of neighbors.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly
it.
right.
I love it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
Thank
and
you.
space. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everything that you all are doing in the community.
Same
I
to
love
you.
it. All right, that's what it is. Capeless superheroes. I swear I'm gonna get me a trophy just to start handing out to people. Logan, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me, I would say just go to workgroup.org, WRKgroup.org if you want to get in touch with me personally. LinkedIn is probably the best way. I'm on Facebook. Surprisingly, I'm not on Twitter or Instagram. I just don't have enough time.
I hear you,
that.
bro. I hear you.
But yeah, and you can email me, lherring@reachriverside.org. Happy to connect with anybody that wants to.
All right, cool. Chris?
Sean'sHouse.com or unlockthelight.com. I'm saying with Logan, I have no social media presence whatsoever. So if you want to email me, you can call Chris at langdevgrp.com. That's my business email.
My man.
I am unreachable.
All right. I got nothing to say there. He's like, look, I'm good. I done did my time. I'm riding it out. No.